Hello and welcome to A Reader's Almanac with Celeste. Today I'm going to be talking to you about girl sleuths, specifically girl sleuths from the early 1930s up through the late 1960s, early 1970s. In another video, I had talked about my favorite girl sleuth of all time, Nancy Drew, that's my girl, and spoken to you about the first 5 mysteries and where's the best place to start with Nancy Drew. So if you're interested in catching that video, I will post it in the comments below. So as you probably know, the author of the Nancy Drew books and many others was Carolyn Keene. But Carolyn Keene is not one real person. It's actually a pen name for a group of ghostwriters who worked for a publishing firm called the Stratemeyer Syndicate. And through the Stratemeyer Syndicate, these ghostwriters wrote under different names and produced books for the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, and another series called the Dana Girls. But we need to have a talk about the Dana Girls. So the first one was called By the Light of the Study Lamp, and the second one was called The Secret at Lone Tree Cottage. Now there are many titles in the series, as you can see from the backs there, but today I'm just going to discuss the one that I've read, which is By the Light of the Study Lamp. The Dana Girls are 2 sisters, Jean and Louise Dana. They're teenaged orphans, and Louise is the big sister, the older sister. She has dark hair, she's quite intelligent, she's quiet, she's a bit demure, and she's sort of pensive and serious and likes to think things through. Her younger sister is Jean, and she is blonde, vivacious, outgoing. So Jean and Louise Dana are orphans, and they attend a boarding school in a place called Penfield, which I get a kick out of because nearby to where we live is the town of Penfield also, coincidentally. So they attend the Starhurst School for Girls, and there's another girl who's kind of their arch nemesis who attends this school, and her name is Letty Briggs, and she's kind of the school bully. So when the Dana Girls are on vacation from the school, they stay at the nearby home of their guardians, and their guardians are their Uncle Ned Dana, who is actually a sea captain and is often away on his ship, and also Uncle Ned's sister, who is the spinster, love the name, spinster Harriet Dana. And so Harriet runs the household, and so when the girls are not in their classes at school, they come home to Uncle Ned and Aunt Harriet's house. And as By the Light of the Study Lamp opens, you're introduced to this array of characters. Now very soon into the first chapter, we learn that Uncle Ned, who's been away on his ship, has sent a mysterious package to the girls as a gift, and it turns out to be an antique lamp for them to put in their study at the boarding school. And so that's how the book opens. But very soon after they receive this special lamp from Uncle Ned, it's stolen. Well, the 2 Dana girls give chase and follow this sort of swarthy looking gentleman who's driving away very quickly in his car, and they follow him to an antique store, and his car is parked outside, and one of the Dana girls goes inside and learns that his name is Jake Garbone and accuses him of stealing the lamp. And also in the back of the store, sort of hidden in the shadows, is this gypsy-ish woman who isn't very friendly and looks kind of evil. Well, the mystery goes on from there, and yeah, so as a mystery story, all of those elements were okay. However, that's where these books start to differ from Nancy Drew. The Dana girls, at least in this first one, By the Light of the Steady Lamp, there's a kind of mean-spiritedness that I can't quite put my finger on. I realize it was written in the 30s, but it was written by some of the same people that were writing Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. But there's almost this sort of hardscrabble harshness, a Depression-era kind of look out for yourself mentality that's kind of rude to others. How can I put it? For example, there in the Dana household, there are two hired staff, and one is a woman called Cora Apple, and she's sort of the housekeeper there, and she's always crying and dropping things, and I know she's supposed to be sort of a comic character, and we're supposed to be chuckling at how clumsy she is and silly and all of that, but for this reader at least it didn't come across that way. It came across as sort of mean. There's also a hired man, and his name is Ben, and he stutters. He has a stammer, and so in the dialogue they show him stammering, you know, like literally written like that, and the girls kind of mock him and make fun of him. So whereas I think Nancy Drew and her friends and family were always very affectionate and loving with staff, these girls are kind of privileged and snotty and make fun of them. And also with the school bully, Letty Briggs, when she does something to them, they'll get back at her in kind of a mean girl, cliquish way, but instead of them also being called out for their bad behavior, they're praised and they're popular at the school. And even the headmistress is fine with it, like doesn't care that they've been mean to Letty in return. So, yeah, and also the character of Jake Garbone, who is the one who supposedly stole the study lamp. He's painted in a really sort of stereotypical way. You know, he's swarthy and dark, and he talks broken, and he's ethnic. Okay, he's meant to be like, you know, an Italian thief or something like that. And also the woman who's in the back of the shop, the antique store, is described as gypsy-ish. So she is also swarthy, which brings on this whole concept that came from before World War I of fear of the other and the alien and the foreigner, and that they're not to be trusted if they come from someplace else, and so they are, of course, the criminals. So those are the things I did not like about this. I guess if all of that had been dealt with by two main characters that were kind and sort of saw through it and were altruistic, it would have made up for all of it, but it did not. They're just kind of mean girls. Then I thought, okay, well, who was the ghostwriter who wrote this? And it turns out it was Leslie McFarlane, so it's actually written by a man, and his story is fascinating. I'll go into his story as well as Mildred Wirt, the other Caroline King, in another vlog. But basically, he wrote a lot of the Hardy Boys mysteries, and he could not stand writing the Dana girls. He hated it. He only did it as a potboiler. He was raising a family in Canada. He literally wrote these so that he could make money to put coal in the furnace, because there were a bunch of kids that he and his wife were raising, and they didn't have any money. And so he wrote these to keep money coming in to keep them alive and eating. So I was thinking, well, maybe it's just him, maybe it's his style of writing, and it's because he doesn't enjoy what he's doing with these characters. So I thought, well, why don't I try one that was written by Mildred Word? So I skipped way ahead and read half of another one quite later in the series that was penned by Mildred Word, because her Nancy Drew books are my favorites. I'm sad to say that it did not get any better. It was just as bitter, just as cruel. The humor is mean, and they're mean girls. And so I guess if you love mean girls, go for it. I'm disappointed because I absolutely love the cover art on these books. You know, the 1940s especially, the outfits that they're wearing. I mean, it's beautiful cover art, and I wanted so much to like the Dana girls. And maybe I still will give them a chance and read a few more. I recently picked this one up at a thrift shop, and it cost me, I think, $1.99. This is The Secret in the Old Well. So, love the covers, love Grosset and Dunlap matte yellow editions. I collect quite a few of them, saving that for another video as well to show you my Girl Sleuths collection. But in any event, yeah, I was not thrilled with the Dana girls. If you've read any of the Dana girls mysteries and you want to share with me some of your insights on why you liked them, or perhaps something I'm missing about the series, please let me know in the comments below. Okay, so we've talked about Nancy Drew and we've talked about the Dana girls. Who are some other girl sleuths that you might try next? Well, for me, it was Judy Bolton in The Vanishing Shadow. I mentioned this a few vlogs ago before I was going on my vacation, and the Judy Bolton mysteries started in 1932, and they're written by Margaret Sutton. So she is not connected to the Stratemeyer Syndicate. She was not a Caroline Keene author. She was her own author, Margaret Sutton. Here's a little photo of her on the back, if you're able to see that with the ring light here. And she wrote quite a few of the Judy Bolton stories. And so this is the first one in the series. Now, the interesting thing is that I've been told that the first title, The Vanishing Shadow, is nothing like the rest of the series. And a lot of readers recommend that you actually start with number 2, The Haunted Attic. But I wanted to start from the very beginning, and I fell in love with this cover art, which I think is just fantastic. It's gorgeous. It's by Pelleggy Doan. And so I did start with number 1. And this is the story of Judy Bolton, who is spending a few weeks in the summer along with her brother Horace at the home of her grandparents in a place called Drybrook. And so this is sort of like a little town, fictional town, but it's based on a small town in Pennsylvania. And during her stay there, she overhears some workmen talking about problems with a dam that's being built. And she learns that it's not being built safely and that there are problems with it and that the town needs to be warned about this dam. It involves her being kidnapped and held overnight in a shack near the dam, and she sort of unravels the plot of these nefarious people. I found it thoroughly enjoyable and old-fashioned. You know what it reminded me of, actually, is kind of like if you woke up in the middle of the night or you couldn't sleep, and so you put on an old black and white movie with like Judy Garland at 2 in the morning and Mickey Rooney, and you know, it's kind of like not slapstick, but the characters are just sort of like that. They're your all-American gung-ho kids who go out to solve this mystery, and there's a sense of humor that runs all the way through it. The boys are starting to look at Judy because she's becoming a young woman and she's smart. She participates in the local spelling bee, for example. It involves really simple, homey pleasures such as picking berries and making jam and all of that kind of stuff along the way. And they talk about the town newspaper that her brother Horace works for, and the boys come and pick her up in their jalopy and all that kind of stuff. So it's just really heartwarming, and it's a fun story. I read this in a day and a half, so it was a super quick read. This edition is a new edition, actually, by Applewood Books, and they are a press that is publishing many of the old-time series. It says Publisher of America's Living Past. They're located in Bedford, Massachusetts, and they do have their own website if you're interested. So they've published all of the Judy Bolton titles, and so I really enjoyed this one. Judy is much nicer than the Dana girls. Judy is a really stand-up person. She defends people. She, whenever anyone is getting teased, she stands up for them and is their defender. Her dad is a doctor. They live in a house in town, and she's just a good egg. She's a good person, is Judy. The only complaint that I had in this book is that she teases her brother Horace. He's considered to be a bit sickly, a bit weak, and has anxiety. He's always afraid of everything. And I think the mentality in the 1930s at this time was very chauvinistic. And so there are passages in here where, unfortunately, they're calling Horace sister, that's his nickname, and telling him to man up and be a man, and why don't you do something with your life and do something brave and stand up for yourself and all of that. So of course, through the lens of today and today's social perspective, that does not fly. And Judy is guilty of it herself. She does speak to her brother that way. So I didn't enjoy that. However, she does regret it after she does it. So overall, though, I found this really enjoyable, and I do recommend this title. Since everybody says that the next book in the series is quite different, I'll be interested to read The Haunted Attic, and we'll see how that one goes as well. That's all I have time for today. It's Labor Day where I am. I'm probably going to be putting this video out tomorrow on Tuesday, but I'm filming it today, and now we're about to go over to Grandma's house for a cookout. I hope that you're celebrating the long weekend wherever you are, and that you're enjoying it and these last vestiges of summer. And we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.